Karen, and today's video is based on a request from a couple of subscribers who've asked me to demonstrate how I color fur. So that's what we're going to be doing today. To begin with, I'm going to show some examples of pages that I've colored, and then I will demonstrate the technique in this book. Okay, it's Animal Wonderland Special by Kanoko Igusa, and the page we're going to be coloring is this one. This page is also in Symphony of Cute Animals. So whether you have the Coloring Heaven Special or you have Symphony of Cute Animals, you can color along with this page. And we're only going to be coloring the fox, where I'll be doing the rest of the page another time. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so the first example page is from Fragile World by Kirby Rosanz, and it is this hamster page. On this page, I used a base of regular watercolor from a pan. It is, I think, Van Gogh watercolors, and then I used Polychromos pencils on top. Okay, so there's that one. The next example is from Daydreams by Hannah Carlson, and it is this mice on a kettle page. And here I use the technique with a watercolor pencil as a base, and then it is Derwent Pro Color pencils for the fur itself. Next we have the Swan and Signet page from Fairy Celebrations by Klara Markova, and it's this page. Here I actually used a couple of different techniques, but the technique that I'm going to be demonstrating is the technique that's used on the Signet with the really fluffy fur rather than the smoother fur of the Swan. These techniques are similar, but basically you use a lot more flicking strokes for the fluffier fur than you do on the smoother fur, or in this case they'd be feathers. Feathers and fur are basically colored very similarly. Another example is the Macaque Monkeys from Animaux de la Forêt by Carolyn Allen. Okay, and here we have the mother macaque and her two little babies. Yes, and so here we've got longer fur and shorter fur. The technique is the same. It doesn't matter the length of the fur. It's more important to pay attention to colors and direction of fur. The next one is the Panda page in Mythographic Wild Winter by Joseph Kattenbang. And here we have the mother panda and her baby panda. And here we have white fur, which I will explain how to color as well, because the image that we are going to color will have white fur in it as well. And last but not least, we have Dreamtime Special by Hannah Carlson, and the page is this one. It's also a page that is in Jewelry Box, so if you have that book instead of the Dreamtime Special, you can use that one. And here I used white gouache paint diluted as a base layer. When you do that, when you use gouache paint, it also gives somewhat of a texture to the page that will make the fur look even fluffier with pencil on top. Anyway, so it's white gouache paint allowed to dry completely, and then it is Polychromos pencils on top. So those are the examples that I have, and now we're going to talk about materials. Okay, so depending on what medium you're going to use for your base layer, you might use all or some of these products. So if your base layer is alcohol marker, then you need an alcohol marker. Keep in mind that alcohol markers bleed through the paper, and so you would not use this if you have an image on the other side of the page that you want to keep. Then that would not be a good idea for a base layer. Also, I do not recommend using watercolor-based markers for the very simple reason that they tend to streak. There is a wonderful series of videos by Annika from Axic Fumbles where she talks about how she uses water-based markers as base layers, and I have not yet mastered that technique, but I will be working on it, but that's for another video. Anyway, so if you are using alcohol marker, just make sure that you are using the lightest color, and choose the lightest color based on your reference photo, which we will talk about in a few minutes. Okay, Another option for base layer is some kind of a watercolor pencil. So you can use any brand of watercolor pencil. I have the Faber-Castell Aqua Grip pencils, and I have Derwent Inktense. Again, lightest colors based on your reference photo. Okay, another option is just to use a base layer of pencil. So again, it will be your lightest color for the base layer. This is not the lightest color, but I use Polychromos or Castle Arts pencils, or even Prismacolor, but I'm going to talk a bit more about pencils in a couple of minutes. Okay, and one other option for base layer is gouache paint. Okay, so you can get gouache paint in all sorts of different forms. I use the Arteza brand diluted. So I put a little bit of the paint in a palette. I squeeze some water onto the paint and I dilute it, and just you check and see what consistency you like. If you have thicker paint, then you're going to have fluffier fur, and if you have more diluted paint, then you're going to have smoother fur. But regardless of whether there's a lot of water or not a lot of water, you must wait for the page to dry completely before putting pencil on top, and just basically trial and error, test it out. And see what you like. Okay, I also have a water brush, and I have various types of white acrylic or gel pens. So I have the Artristo brand of acrylic paint pen. You can also use Posca. I have a white jelly roll, number 8. Number 10 is also okay. And I have the Languau calligraphy acrylic paint pen. I think it's supposed to be gel, but I don't know, it comes out more like paint, but it's fabulous pen. Okay, I also have some watercolors. So if you want to use a watercolor from a pan instead of watercolor from a pencil, that is also an option. Just make sure that it, again, is the lightest color. Okay. Right. So now let's talk about pencils. Okay, so regardless of which brand of pencil you use, you are going to need a very sharp pencil, because fur, yes, is very noticeably thin, okay? And so in order to get the texture of fur that we want, we're going to have to use flicking motions with a very sharp pencil. I recommend using either the Dahl 133 sharpener or the Tagal sharpener. Both of these sharpeners get very high, not very high, very sharp points on the pencils. Okay, so those are my two recommended sharpeners. In terms of pencils, I've got a range here of different pencils, from the pencils with the hardest cores to the pencils with the softest cores. Pencils with harder cores are better for fur than pencils with softer cores, but again, you can even use a pencil with a softer core for this technique. You just have to make sure to keep sharpening your pencil. So keep this in mind. You will be sharpening a pencil with a softer core more often than a pencil with a harder core. Okay, so we have Derwent Pro Color. This is a pencil with a harder core, and it gets to a very sharp point. Okay, then we have Polychromos, which is also an oil-based pencil, so it has a harder core and very sharp point. And then we have the Castle Arts pencils. Now, I want to just put a caveat here, because I have the 120 set that was the original set before they added color names and color numbers. And as far as I understand, the formula for these pencils has changed slightly. So I'm not sure if they are as good with fur now as the ones that I have. Okay, but in any case, ironically, these are a softer pencil, yet they can be sharpened to a very, very sharp point. They do not break, and they are really good with flicking, even though they are softer. So that's an interesting phenomenon. Next, we have two pencils that are very, very similar. Okay, so we have the Caran d'Ache Luminance pencils and the Derwent Light Fast pencils. Both of these pencils are softer cores compared to the first three, but they also get to a very, very sharp point and are less inclined to break with that sharp point. However, they're kind of expensive, and so I'm hesitant to recommend them for fur because you will nevertheless be doing some sharpening, and you might not want to waste them. Also, not so much the light fast, but the luminance, depending on the pencil, can be a bit scratchy. Okay, they are a pencil that requires a lot of layering. Okay, the next three pencils are ones that I love. They are fantastic pencils. They are not good for fur. Okay, and they are the three softest cored pencils. We have Derwent Color Soft. Okay, it gets to a sharp point, but it will break, and it's very soft, so it gets worn down very quickly, and eventually what starts to happen is you can also get some smudging. Okay, then we have the Caran d'Ache Pablo pencils. These ones also, you can sharpen them to a sharp point, but again, they wear down quickly and they have a chalky feel to them. So if you want to do fluffy fur, this might actually be a good pencil, especially for base layers. Okay, and last but not least, we have everybody's favorite pencils, Prismacolor, but again, they are not such a good pencil for fur because they are very, very soft and they wear down even more quickly than the other two. You will find yourself sharpening a lot to get that sharp point. That doesn't mean that you can't use them. You can use them. They've got a fantastic color range for fur, but keep in mind that sharpening will become your favorite activity with them. Okay, so those are pencils, and now we're going to talk about reference photos. Right, so now we're going to discuss how I find my reference photos. So for this purpose, I use Pinterest, and I look at the image that I'm going to color. In this case, it is the fox page from Animal Wonderland by Kanoko Igusa. And I see that there is a fox and some flowers. And so I am going to search for images that contain that information. So I put into the search engine fox cub in flowers minus AI so that it will filter out elements that have AI in them. And so as you can see, I still get some AI pictures, but I also get one or two that are real foxes. And as such, I want to look for more images that have real foxes. So here, for example, we have a cute little fox, and I also want to make sure that it is a picture of a fox that is in the same angle or dimension of the fox that is in my image. So for example, this one is very similar to the way the fox in the image that we're going to color looks, and then I save it. Okay, so I save it to wherever I am saving these images. Okay, so let's go to where I've saved everything, and you will see that I have quite a few pictures of foxes from different angles. I do have one that I think is AI, but I really liked it, so I saved it because it's got the flowers and I might use it. But now that I have my reference picture, we have to start thinking about the colors that we're going to choose. So for example, let's take this one. Okay, let's take this one. Now, when we are looking at this picture and as the reference, we need to look at the colors, and we also need to look at the direction that the fur is going in. So I can see here that this particular fox has a white undercoat, and then he's got different shades of brownish oranges. So there's some orange. I actually see some orange, maybe some pumpkin orange. I see some yellow ochre. I see burnt sienna. I see sienna brown. In his ears, I see peach and pink and so on. So I just choose colors based on the colors that I see in the picture, and you match them to whichever brand of pencil that you have. Okay, in addition, as I said, we look at the direction the fur is growing. So if we look at this fox's face, we see that on the side of his nose, the fur is growing sideways. And then around the eyes, yes, we see that it is shorter fur under the eye and over the muzzle and to the top of the head where the ears are, the fur starts to get a little bit longer. Then on the ears, there's short furs underneath and longer furs crossing over into the ears. And then if we look at the neck area, which is the same area that is on our picture. So in this particular image, we don't need to worry about the back or the legs of the fox because our fox in our image doesn't have a back or legs. So we only need to look at the front of his neck and chest. And we see there that here it's a dirty white. But if we look at a different picture, for example, this one, we see that there's an undercoat of perhaps sepia, and then the white is on top. So we also see that the fur here is a lot longer and fluffier. Okay, so we always need to pay attention to the way the fur is growing. Okay, so now that we have our reference pictures and we've paid attention to colors and chosen colors and noted the direction of the fur, we're going to actually start coloring. And for that, I'm going to move on to the actual book. Right, so now we're moving on to actually coloring the fur. And I have chosen pencils based on the reference photo that I found on Pinterest. And I'm just going to go through the colors that I've chosen. Now, it's very important to remember that animal fur is never only one color. It is a whole different range of colors, and some of them might not even make sense, but in the end, it comes out looking realistic. So if we look at this fox, we see he's got some reds and some whites and some grays. So those are the colors that we've got. So I'm going to go through the colors that I chose. So we have, all of them are Prismacolor. Sorry, not Prismacolor. They are Polychromos. So we have black, 199. We have Payne's Gray, 181. We have Warm Gray 5, 274. We have Warm Gray 3, 272. We have Warm Gray 1, 270. Ivory, 103. Terracotta, 186. Burnt Ochre, 187. Burnt Sienna, 283. Sepia, 175. And I also have a Prismacolor Gray Lavender. All of the grayish colors are going to be used for the white, and then the brownish reddish colors and some of the ivory are going to be used for the reddish fur. Okay, so let's get going. So we are going to base the fox with watercolor, okay? And I'm going to demonstrate this using watercolor from a pan. However, this base layer can be done using any light color. So you could use an alcohol marker if your page is one-sided. You could use a watercolor pencil. You could even use just one of the lightest colors of these that we have on the side. And if I was doing it with that, I would use the ivory. But I'm going to use watercolor from a pan to demonstrate how that is done. Okay, so for that purpose, I have my watercolors, and the color that I'm going to use is from Daniel Smith. Okay, and it is this lightish, creamish, ivorish color, which is called Buff Titanium. Okay, so that is the color that we're going to use. I'm just going to take it out of the palette. Okay. I'm also using this cute little setup that I recently purchased. It is a water brush cleaner. Yes, and so I've got a video explaining how this works. Okay, so we're going to put our Buff Titanium there. Okay, and just move this to the side so I don't make a mess. Okay, so this is the page that we're working on. Okay, it is the fox from Animal Wonderland Special. As I said earlier, it is also in Symphony of Cute Animals. Okay, and I have put some card underneath to make sure that I don't make anything messy on the page that follows. Okay, so let's just move some of this aside. Okay, so for this, I am using a round 6. Any round 6 will do. This is from the Wonder Forest brand, okay, and it comes to a nice point. And I also have a cloth to wipe my brush on. And as I said, I have my cute little water brush set up there. You can also just use a cup of water. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to, first things first, wet our pan. Okay, so you just get some water and you wet it, okay? Okay, and you just let that sit for a minute or two. Well, not a minute or two, a couple of seconds is enough. Okay, to let the water seep into the pan. Some pans of paint wet easier than others. Daniel Smith is a very expensive brand, and I have very few of their colors because of that. But they wet really quickly and give you a lot of pigment. So a little paint goes a really long way. Now, the reason I am doing this is because the undercoat of our fox is this creamy color. So I'm just going to zoom in a bit. Okay, so move that to the side. Okay, get him on screen. All right, and we are going to put a base layer of this paint down on the whole fox, except for the eyes and the little area here in the middle, which is going to be our highlight. Okay, so yeah, I put it on everything. Now, again, don't worry that it looks a bit dark. When it dries, it will dry lighter. Okay, use really small amount of water because this paper is not watercolor paper, it's coloring book paper, and so we don't want to use too much water so as not to saturate the paper with water and get it to tear or crumple or crinkle or anything else. So just, yes, a small amount of water is sufficient to cover the whole page. Okay, just the fox. And as you can see, I'm putting down a really light layer of paint. It's just to go over the white of the paper. Okay, around his eye, around this nose. Okay, again, we're leaving this as our highlight. Okay. Really, just really small amounts of water. Okay, and dab, yes, don't rub the brush, because if you rub, then the paper is going to tear. Okay, and yeah, that's our base layer. Now we're just gonna let that dry. Okay, so our first layer is dry, and now we're going to go and start working with the pencils. Now there are two ways we can go about this. We can either go from light to dark or dark to light. I prefer going from light to dark so that I can erase a layer if I make a mistake, but you can also go from dark to light, in which you put in the shadows first, and that is good for pages where there is a lot of shadow areas that have already been put in by the artist. For example, Kirby Roseanne's pages or Joseph Kattenbang. Kanoko Igusa has put in just a little bit of shading to indicate where some of the shading should go, but it is not very heavy-handed. And so I am going to be using the light to dark technique. So we are going to start mapping out the colors with a very sharp pencil and using flicking motions. So let's get started. So we are going to start laying down our color with our reference picture right next to us so that we can keep referring back to it. I'm going to go and put this on the side because I can't have it on camera while I'm putting in the strokes. So just keep in mind, I will be referring back to it every once in a while. Now, the best way to go about this is to focus on one area at a time rather than trying to color in everything all at the same time. Focus on one area, finish that part, move on to another area, and so on. So we are going to start with the nose area and around the eyes. So I'm just gonna zoom in a bit more, and we are going to start. Now, you can follow the guide that the artist has given you. So here around the eyes, we're going to leave this area right around the eye alone so that we get a bit of a highlight there. And we're gonna start flicking, okay? Very sharp pencil. Okay, now based on our reference photo, we know that the hair around the nose is short-ish. So short flicking motions.
That doesn't look like my sheep.
Be quiet, it's a fox.
I want my sheep.
Ignore the roommate. She wants sheep, but I haven't gotten around to sheep yet.
Bah.
Okay, right, and yes, again, use the lines that the artist has given us. Okay, now you can start lengthening your strokes a little bit. Okay, now here the artist has given a bit more, so we're just gonna go there and there. Okay, use the strokes that the artist has given us. Okay, light pressure. With light pressure, if you make a mistake, you can go in and you can fix it, okay? But if you go in heavy-handed straight from the beginning, it's much more difficult to fix. Okay, so we're using short strokes. Okay, and every once in a while I stop and I look at my reference photo. Okay, I also turn my pencil every once in a while so as not to wear down one side of the pencil. Okay, now here we have a flower that is casting a shadow onto this fox. So here we can go in a little bit heavier, but again, short strokes, because that is what Kanoko has given us. Okay, now I'm going to try and do this on camera. All right, so here you go in the direction that the artist has given us, also the direction that is in the reference photo. Okay. Okay, I think I forgot to tell you which color we're using. So it is the Burnt Ochre 187. Okay, and just short flicking motions. Now here, again, we have the ears, and this ear is casting a shadow here, and this ear is casting a shadow here. So a little bit harder pressure, but still flicking motions. We're going to be putting down a lot of layers of color. So don't worry if in the beginning it looks a bit strange. Every page goes through its ugly duckling stage. Okay, here too. Again, cast shadow here. So, okay, Okay, so as you can see, by following the guide given to us by the artist, we've got some highlight areas here, underneath the eyes, over here, and here. One second, over here. So the artist has given us a guide. Okay, that isn't to say that we're not going to go into this highlight area with other colors. Okay. In fact, if we look at our reference photo, we can see that in this area, yes, there's a lot more color. So we are going to go into the highlight area that the artist has given us because we are going to be following this reference photo. Okay, so we're going to be putting down another layer of color into the highlight because we are following that reference photo. Now, really light pressure, flicking motions, okay? And we want them to be short strokes because this fox has short hair, okay, into this highlight area over here. I'm going back to the reference photo. And we see that there is also here in the highlight area. So there's this highlight, and then there's more fur or color over here. So we're going to go and do that. So we're going to go around this flower, which is putting a cast shadow. And if we do that, then we're going to get that automatic highlight in the middle there. Okay. Okay, and we're going to do it on this side as well. But here we've already got these flicks, so we're going to come at it from this direction. Again, we're following the strokes that the artist has given us. Okay. So we've still got highlight, okay, but we've made it slightly smaller, okay. Okay, I'm just putting down a few more strokes in the spots where the artist has given them to us. Okay, now this area we're leaving white because it's going to be the muzzle, and we'll do that afterwards. Okay. Right, so yes, that is our first color, and now we're going to go in with our next color, which is terracotta 186. Okay, now we're going to, again, make sure we have a very sharp pencil. We look at our reference photo, and we can see that this color is more around the muzzle, okay, and then slightly towards the edges, but leaving the lighter color still there, okay? So lighter colors, and then this color over here, okay? So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so we're leaving this lighter color here, and we're just going slightly into the highlight. Again, flicking motions. Okay, but still leaving the highlight. You can have one or two furs go into the highlight. Okay. Okay, on his little nose there. Okay, it's okay to go over colors that you have already put down. Okay, we know from our reference picture that this bit is a little bit redder underneath. So we put in our colors. We know that this bit is lighter, but this bit is darker from our reference photo. And again, we're following the guide given to us. Okay, now obviously it's going to be darker here around the cast shadow. And we slowly build up the fur. This process requires patience. Okay, and we go slowly, no rush. I find coloring fur very relaxing. Oh, I need to put down a piece of paper so that I'm not going to smudge. Okay, so yeah, sometimes I forget and remember halfway through. Okay. Okay, now let's look at the top here between the ears. Let's look at the reference photo. Okay, so here we can see that in between his ears, it's much darker with this color, and then it goes down like in sort of a V shape. Okay, so we're gonna flick, but we're gonna leave these tufts the color that we've got. Okay, so here we saw in the reference photo that it's darker. But we also saw on the side that it's lighter. Okay, again, flicking motions, short strokes, because this fox has short fur. Sometimes I do my flicking strokes upward. Okay, and sometimes I do them downwards. If you do this, then you get alternating strokes, and then it looks more realistic. Okay, remember we're going to come in with lots and lots of layers. So don't worry at first if it looks a bit strange. Okay. Right. Okay, our next color is Burnt Sienna 283. Okay, and we can see again that it's darker here. Okay, a little bit darker around the eye there. Then we've got these two little spots, this one and this one, and here around the eye. We're going to leave the eyes alone for a while. I'm going to do the eyes separately to show you how to do them. And we can also see that there's a little bit of this color here and here. Okay, so you keep referring back to the reference photo. Okay, and we're going to start doing shorter strokes around his muzzle here. Okay, rotate the pencil. Build up the color. Okay, I can see that from the photo that it goes up a bit. Okay, I can see that it goes around his muzzle like that. Okay. Like this. Okay. And over here as well, we've got some darker areas. Okay, leaving this lighter shade here, because that's what we have in the reference photo. And as I said, keep looking back at your reference. It doesn't have to look exactly like the reference. The reference is a guide. Okay, above his eye, like this area. That area. Again, a little bit longer there. A little bit here. And again in our shadow areas because of this flower. Okay, and here where the ear tufts, these ear tufts are casting shadow underneath here. And here at the top, there are some random tufts. Okay. You can just use Kanoko's guides. Okay, here again, this ear is casting shadow here, so a little bit darker here and a little bit darker there. Oh, that's my dog. Ignore him. He's just making his, complaints known. He has complaints. Okay, so as you can see, it's starting to build up. I see here a little bit more there, a little bit more there. Okay, and you follow the direction in the reference photo or on the page itself. Yes, a bit there. Okay. Right, this is a perfect opportunity to show you that I've made a mistake and I'm going to erase it, okay? So if we look at our reference photo, okay, we can see that this area is actually going to be white fur, but I have accidentally colored it this color. But because I have done it with really, really light layers, I can just erase that, okay, and fix it. All right, so I'm going to actually take this bit out, and as you can see, because it was really, really light layers, I can erase what I've done. And even if there's just a tiny residue of that color, once we start putting in the grays for the white, it's gonna vanish, okay? But nevertheless, I have erased a bit too much, and so I'm just going to put back in my colors, okay? But this area is gonna have to be white. All right, so that's how, if you use the flicking motions and the light layers, then if you make a mistake, you can erase it and fix it. Okay, right. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to blend the colors that I already have. Okay, so I'm going to take the ivory. Okay, this one doesn't have to be sharp because you're going to be blending. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a light layer of this color over everything to blend the colors I already have. Okay, you do not need to do flicking motions. You do not need to, have a sharp pencil for this. We are just putting a light layer of ivory over everything to blend. Okay, you can do circular motions, you can do scribbly motions. I like to still do motions in the direction of the fur. Okay, and here I'm going to go a little bit into this highlight area around his eye, and here, and actually with this color go around his eye, and here too, because we're going to start putting pencil there. Okay. Okay, so now I have blended the pencil that I have put down already. Okay, it sort of smooths it all out, it sort of blends it, gives it a more fluffy look. Okay, you can go into the highlight areas. Okay, right, so yeah, we've given him a bit more of a fluffy look. Okay, now we're going to go in with our next darkest color, which is sepia. Okay, it's dark sepia 175. Okay, sharp point because we're going back to our flicking. Okay, again, we look at our reference photo and we look and we see where the darkest parts are. Okay, So here's our reference photo. We can see that it's really dark around the eye. Okay, and under there and over here and a little bit of flicks there. And also here on the edges of the ears. We haven't done his ears yet. We're going to come back into his ears separately. Okay. Okay, so I see that here around his eye, it is really dark. Now, the artist has given us that edge, okay? So we are going to take this pencil and we are going to color in, yes, this part of the eye. Okay. Gonna go around. Okay, here too. Okay, right. And now what we're going to do is we are going to also add this here underneath the eye. Okay, someone is squealing a little bit more loudly. I think he wants to go for a walk. Okay, and we are just going to put this pencil where the artist has put her tufts. Because, again, if we look at the reference photo, okay, it's not everywhere. She's still got highlights, and then she's got darker areas. So we're just going to follow the guide for the reference image. Okay, I see that she's got there. Okay. It's darker here. And it's darker there. You can also add in tufts that are in the reference photo that aren't in the line art. Okay, now I also see that based on the reference photo, there are these darker areas on each side of the eye. So I'm also going to put those in. Okay, and on this side as well. It looks slightly different on the side. That's okay. You can follow the guide. And definitely a bit more there. And also here around the flower. Under here for the cast shadow. And also here, because that's in the reference photo. Okay, and here, just by the ears. He has one over there in the reference photo. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go through all of the colors again and put in a second layer of everything. Okay, so once again, we're starting off with our burnt ochre, and this is where polychromos shines because we've already got a sharp point. We don't really need to sharpen it again, but if you feel that it needs sharpening, you can sharpen it. Okay, now I am going to look again at my reference photo, and I can see that some of this color goes actually into the highlight area. So we're going to start with that. Okay, but before then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this ivory, and again, I'm going to just put a light layer of ivory into the nose. Okay, it's going to give us a base layer because we did not put paint here. Okay, but keep this area white. Okay. Okay, so now with this color, I am just going to, yes, Here we can do circular motions. If we look at the reference photo, we can see there's not flicks here, okay? The fur is very soft here, and so it's actually more smudged. So that's what we're doing. Okay, so here, again, no flicks here. It's more circular motions because the fur here on the muzzle or nose is a little bit softer. Okay. Okay, and we can go right up to where Kanoko has given us the, okay, I'm gonna stop there because it's gonna be black or gray there. Okay, and that's my cue to take a break and take the dog for a walk. I'll be back. Right, so I'm back. I apologize for the noise in the background. It's my tumble dryer. We are continuing to do the top of the nose, and this is our reference photo, and so we are doing the parts that are on the side of the highlights with the brown ochre, burnt ochre, and we are using circular motions because, as you can see, this is where the softer fur is. Okay, I will be constantly looking at the reference photo to make sure that I am getting it right. Okay, so we're going a little bit into the highlight with this, okay, to narrow down that area. Okay, on the nose. Again, circular motions here because it's the softer fur. Okay, and there's even like a little area here which is really soft, and we will be blending that out. Okay, right. So I'm thinking even a little bit more in. Okay, right. Okay, so now we're going to go back in with the terracotta, which is, 186. Terracotta, yeah. And we are darkening up this area. Again, still circular motions here. Okay, and this side too. Medium pressure now. Okay, here we're going to go back to flicking a bit. Okay. Right, and yes, okay, and now we're going back in with the burnt sienna, 283, okay, and we're gonna darken it up even more, okay, and we're gonna connect it to the area where we did do flicks. Okay, right. And we're actually going to bring some of those flicks down some more here, and a bit more up as well. Okay, and he has even more of these here. Okay, so you could just, you follow the reference photo, you see what's there, and you try to get it to look as much like that as possible. It's never going to be exactly the same as the reference photo, but that's okay. As long as you get fur that you like and that looks realistic. It doesn't have to look exactly like the reference photo. It's never going to look exactly the same. It's yours, it's your page, and it's your fur. Okay, I still want to make this a bit darker. And here, he's got this a little bit deeper there. And then he's got this a little bit more. Okay, a little bit more like that. Okay. So at any point in this video, if you don't want to follow on exactly, you can speed me up or you can mute me. I won't be at all insulted. You do what's best for you. Okay, I want to. I think we're going to go back in with the sepia. I'm trying to see. So let's look at the reference photo again. Okay, so as you can see, now I'm debating what to do. As you can see, around his eye, there is this darker area, and on this side too, but I want to lay up this color. I don't want to go immediately in with the sepia because then it's going to be too dark and it's not going to look realistic. So once again, we're going to build up this eye area with the other colors first. So we want to build up that area, so I'm going to go back in with the burnt ochre 187 and build up that color around the eye. Okay, so I can see from the picture, I need to make it so that this is going to join in with the other. So we're just going to go in with the burnt ochre and go around the eye. Okay, with slightly longer flicking motions. And also here. Okay. And around the eye here, like that. Okay, and now we're also going to do it this side. Okay. And you can see it's going right up to the eye in the reference photo. And also here and here. Okay. Oh, he's starting to look really nice. Okay, next we're going in with terracotta 186 and doing exactly the same thing. Okay, we're just going to go here like this. Okay, and as I said, by using this technique of building up the colors, it's going to look more and more realistic. And if you ever make a mistake, it is much easier to correct. Okay. A little bit more there, I think. Okay, and next is our burnt sienna 283. Okay, now this is when it's going to start getting a bit darker, so we got to be a bit more careful. So we stick to the reference photo. Let me show you again the reference photo, and we can see that this is the area where it needs to be slightly darker, and that's where we're going to put the burnt sienna. Okay, so it's like this. And like that. Okay, all around the eye. Actually outline the eye a bit. Okay, and he's also got this a bit here at the top. So we'll do that as well. Okay, and as you can see, the fur is starting to look more and more realistic. And here on this side also, okay, just outline the eye a bit. And we've got our flicks. Here it's a bit shorter actually on this side. Okay. And again around the eye here. He's got like on this side he's got a lighter patch. So let's do that and go back in with this color around the eye here. Right, and then the terracotta, right? I raised, so I'm putting some of the colors back in. Okay, and yes, okay. I just wanted to do that. Okay. Right, and yeah, he's definitely got a darker bit over here. So I keep looking at my reference photo all the time. Okay, see the direction the fur is going, where the fur is going, where it's darker, where it's lighter, and adjusting all the time. Okay, and by doing this, it builds up. I see that this bit needs to be a bit darker here with this color. So I'm just using all the colors that we've talked about. Burnt ochre, terracotta, and a sienna, burnt sienna. Okay, and I'm also looking here, and once again, here on the side, let's go back to our picture, we can see here, again, we've got these flicks, and this is our highlight area that we can start filling that bit into. Okay, just a little bit, and we'll go over it with ivory to blend it out. So let's do that. We'll go over with ivory, blend out that color. By adding ivory, we're also lightening up. Let's use this ivory to blend everything again. Here as well, down on his nose. Oh, he's starting to look really cute. Okay, here as well. Okay, I didn't do that side, so let's do that side. And once again, I look at my reference photo, and now we're on this side, and we're doing this bit. Okay, constantly looking at the reference photo.
He's looking good.
He is looking good.
Still not my sheep.
Yeah, I know it's not your sheep. She's obsessed with those sheep. Okay, we'll get to her sheep. Okay, right. So again, okay, now let's go in with the terracotta a bit more. Okay, it's these longer tufts that this fox has here. Okay, and again, blending with ivory. Okay, now what I want to do is here at the top, yes, thicken up that fur. Again, we're going in with burnt ochre. So you can see how I do things in sections. You don't do everything all at once. You pick an area, you focus on it, you look at your reference picture, you put in your pencils where you think they should go. If you see that something's becoming a bit too dark, then you erase and put the colors back in again. And it's just a process of flicking and being patient. And as I said, I like coloring fur because I find it relaxing. All that flicking. All my flicking I find it relaxing. Anyway, I see here, again, let's go back to our reference photo. I see that, let's just zoom out a bit. I see that here at the top, he's got this light bit, and then it's darker by the ears, and then again on this side. And so I'm gonna try and get that effect now. Okay, and so you want to space your flicks just a little bit more apart so you can get that highlight. Keep in mind, we can always put highlight back in with gel pen, which is what we're gonna end up doing. Okay, I see that he's got darker here at the top, more reddish. I might even add a pencil to get this more reddish color that he's got there. Just a second. I'm starting to see, based on what I've done so far also, I think that this bit is too dark. So we're gonna erase, see? And as when you erase, you only erase the top layer. And so fixing it is really easy. You just go back in with your colors like this. And then with this color. Okay. I'm actually going to blend. And then this color. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, much better. It was looking a little bit, weird there. But you see, with this technique, erasing and fixing is very easy. Oh, he looks nice. Okay, now I see. Wait, again, burnt ochre. I'm darkening up this area a little bit. I love seeing it come to life. All the colors. Okay, I think he needs a bit more blending with ivory. Okay, and then again, we're going in with the burnt sienna. And we are going to darken up in the shadow areas again. Okay. Yeah, his ears are not straight, but that's okay. 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 This ear is slightly out of place. But it's not the end of the world. We can work with it. Okay. Okay. Right. I see that he's got more red there, and over here a bit more. Okay. Yeah. So this burnt sienna has more of a reddish tone to it. So it's giving us that reddish tone that the fox has got there. Okay. And you just keep going. I'm still thinking that we need more of these lighter tufts. Okay, so let's go back and put them in. We are working with the burnt ochre. And we're putting in those lighter tufts on the side there. Okay, and I can see that they're slightly longer furs, so my strokes become longer. And we are definitely going to be putting in some white gel pen and maybe even some fine liners to deepen up shadows. Okay, yeah, he's got this little area there. Okay, right, we're gonna go back to the eye area because the eye area has to be a bit darker. I'm thinking, yeah, he's lighter here. Okay, and now terracotta. And some burnt sienna. And this side too. You can see that it's much redder on these two edges here. So that's what I'm trying to get, that reddish effect here, that deeper reddish brown on both sides. And yeah, I see that we're getting there. Okay. And here too. Okay. It's a little bit deeper red there. And a little bit deeper red there. Oh. Let's make sure that I'm protecting my page. Okay. Okay, I do want to blend this a bit more. Soften it up a bit. I'm even thinking, oh, actually, no, he looks good. I notice, yes, that this is like it's a creamy highlight. And in order to get that color, we're going to use the burnt ochre and the ivory, okay, on the highlight area, okay, but very lightly. So now you're going to be using burnt ochre and you're going to hold the pencil far down the barrel so that you get a really, really light pressure, because we're going to use this in circular motions over the entire highlight, but barely touching the paper, okay, barely touching, okay, and that's it, okay, and now we're going to go in with the ivory and we're going to blend that out. Okay, blend it out right up to the top of his nose there. Okay. Yes, burnt ochre over here. Yes, and over here. Okay, now we really have to do his eye area. Okay, so for this we need the dark sepia. Okay, dark sepia. Once again, and I see that it's really dark underneath the eye here. Okay, so we built up the color, the other colors. Let's darken up around the eye here on both sides. And okay, now also carefully, lightly, we're going to bring this color out a bit. Light pressure. Okay, and I see, oops, I see that he's got a little bit darker there. Okay, and a little bit above the eye as well. And here it's a bit thicker. Around the top of the eye here. Back to our, that it's this burnt sienna, darker blending out. Okay, so we're gonna blend out all of that with the burnt sienna. Okay, and I see that he's got more burnt sienna there. Okay, yeah, a bit more there. Yeah, and this area as well. Okay, oh, yeah, that looks nice. Good. And now on the other side as well, again, with the dark sepia. So it's darker around there, and then it's darker here. Yes, but because we put the other layers in first, it looks more natural. And here he has definitely got darker border there, and then this comes like that. Yes, and meets the top here. Okay, but we're gonna blend this out with the burnt sienna. Yeah. Okay, and definitely here. Okay, notice that he's got this little bit too. So we're gonna add that. Okay, and blend it out. And then this side, yes, he's also got it, see? So we're going to put it in, there it is. Okay, and blend it out. Okay, he has got something not as long as this side, but it's still there. I think it's because of the angle of the picture. Okay. Oh, wow. And I see now that I need to once again go in with my burnt ochre, yes, and blend more those two sides. But again, it's when I say blend, it's flicking motions. Okay, flicking motions close to the eye. Okay. Right, and this side too. Blending out. Okay, so yeah, that's good for now, I think. So if we zoom out a little bit, yes, we can see that our fox and the fox in the reference picture look very, very similar. Okay, now we're going to move on to the white fur. Okay, so if we zoom out on our reference photo, we can see that the white fur on this fox is quite dirty. I don't want mine to be as dirty as this. I want mine to be whiter. And so you don't, again, the reference photo is just a guide. You can do whatever you like, but I actually want my fox's fur to be not as gray as this, okay? And so, but I still like that he's got this terracotta color on each side, and in the middle is going to be the white. Okay, now the first thing we're going to do is make sure that we keep this white. Okay, so we need to make sure we keep our highlight, and in order to do that, we're going to take the ivory pencil and we're going to put the highlight in. Okay, now polychromos pencils are oil-based, which means that you can use it to prevent other colors going on top. Okay, so when you put a polychromos pencil down, or any oil, primarily oil-based pencil, it's going to put a coat over that area. And then when you try to put another oil-based pencil or even a wax-based pencil, it's going to deflect it a bit. So to get more layers, yes, you'll have to put more layers to cover it over. Okay, but an initial layer it is going to protect. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to, let me zoom in again. I'll move my reference photo. We are going to put down a layer to protect our highlight area. So we want there to be a highlight here around his nose. Okay, and we want there to be a highlight on this side next to his nose. And we want there to be highlight there. And there. Okay, and we also want there to be on the bottom part of his muzzle there, and then this area. Okay. Right, so next we are going to put in the terracotta that is on both sides of our highlight area. We know that from our reference photo, again, we know that he's got white on either side of his fur, his nose, and we want to keep that, and we only want to start our terracotta color below that. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna leave the white that's gonna go there, and we are going to put the terracotta only in this section. Okay, and again, flicking. In fact, I think it's time to sharpen my pencil. Okay, just give it a sharpen. I've got my sharp point back, and I'm going to put in my flicks. Okay, so again, you follow Kanoko's guide. All right, now I know that I want this to be white. Okay, and I know that that is going to be that. So I know that that is going to be white, so I'm going to start there. Okay, again, flicking motions. And I know that his fur here is slightly longer, so I can do longer strokes. But only up to here because this bit is white. Okay, my neighbor's grandchildren are here. So if you hear children shouting. Okay, right. Now, so I've mapped out where the terracotta colors are going to be because now I want to go in with the white. So let's talk a little bit about white fur. White fur is not white. It's very strange. White fur is actually gray. Okay, so basically what is white? White is the absence of color, and what happens is that white fur picks up the colors from objects that are around it. Okay, so sometimes you will even find other colors in white, but we are going to use different shades of gray to color white. Okay, so I've got here warm gray 1, warm gray 3, warm gray 5, and Payne's gray. Okay, these are the colors that I'm going to use to get white, and of course it is also on top of the buff titanium paint that I used as a base. Okay, I'm just erasing some of that because I want him to look a bit more uniform. Okay. Yeah, so we are going to start with our lightest color, which is warm gray 1. Okay, I'm going to sharpen so we get a fine point, and we're going to, yes, exactly the same as we did with the terracotta color, we're going to use the white and just create flicks. Okay, fur flicks. Here too. Okay, and you can even go into the terracotta a little bit because if we look at our reference photo, hold on, because if we look at our reference photo, we see that the white is going into the terracotta, okay? Okay, now we're going to go with our next lightest color, which is Warm Gray 3, very sharp. And now we're going to do it a little bit more in line with the reference photo, okay? So where there is something that is overlapping the fur, it's going to create a cast shadow. So we're going to put more gray there, and we're going to put more gray under the muzzle because the muzzle is casting a shadow onto his neck, okay? So we're going to put this color here at the top. Okay, and Kanoko has actually given us the shadow area as well, so we can see. Okay, and here too. Again, flicking motions. Use the guide that, yes, the artist has given. So we're actually leaving a highlight sort of in the middle. Okay, but we also want to go into that highlight to make it, not to make it too uniform or too unnatural looking. Okay, and round the tree branch. Yes. We can even put it in there a little bit. And here at the bottom as well. Okay. Here. It's going to meet the other white. Okay. Right, now we're going to go with our next darkest color, which is Warm Gray 5. Again, sharp point, okay? And just the shadow areas. Okay, so around the flower petal. Okay, flicking motions. This side as well. This tree branch that he's hiding behind is casting shadow. So we flick. Okay. And make it a bit darker here. Okay, around the branch. Okay, around the petals. And of course, underneath his muzzle. And even to the line art that she's given us for shadow. Okay. So now we're going to blend this out. You have two options. You can either blend with the Prismacolor white or with the Polychromos white. The Prismacolor white is more opaque and the Polychromos is more translucent. And because we want this to be more white, I'm actually going to use the Prismacolor. So first I have to clean off residue from my previous project. And I also have to sharpen so that I get a fine point. Okay, right, I've got a nice point there. And I'm just going to blend, yes, blend with the Prismacolor over everything. And you see it's going to add a nice white overcoat to everything. Okay. Okay. However, by doing that, we lost some of our color. So only now with the Payne's Gray, we're going to go back in and we're going to put some of the shadows back in, okay? But only in the shadow areas. It's our darkest gray and only in the shadows. Okay. Okay, again, flicking, sharp pencil, and underneath his muzzle. Okay. Right, now we want to darken up these edges. Okay, let's go back to our reference photo. As you can see, I constantly go back to the reference photo. So here's our reference photo, and we can see that here on the edge, it's darker, and then here where it's getting closer to the white, then it is merging. Okay, so we're gonna try and get that effect. So basically it is darker here. I'm thinking that this should also be burnt ochre here on the edge there, but maybe just a little bit there, not a lot, because remember I erased there a bit earlier on because I thought that it should be white. Okay, and now we're going to go in with the Terracotta 186, and just here on the edges we're going to flick and darken it up. Okay, and here as well, because I can see that on the reference photo, and also around the leaf because it's got a cast shadow, and over here. Okay, right. However, I'm actually thinking this should be white. Let's just erase that, put in the white, so it's all my grays. Okay. No, not the Payne's gray, the warm gray 5, and then the Payne's gray. Okay, and also on this side as well, so all of my whites. Warm gray 1, side 2, okay, warm gray 3, okay, warm gray 5, okay. Now I want to blend with the Prisma White. Okay, and Payne's gray. I'm thinking this little bit should be burnt ochre. Okay. And again, we're going to, still with burnt ochre, we're going to merge the terracotta that we had before into this white. See, and by doing flicking motions, you get the two types of fur to meld into one another, which makes it look more realistic. Okay, and I think we also need some burnt sienna, just to darken up these edges. Into the shadow areas on top of the gray. The gray will create a shadow for this burnt sienna. Okay, we're going to give him a few more tufts over here, just so that he looks more symmetrical. Okay. Yeah, he is looking good. I'm thinking that in this area, it needs to go a bit into his muzzle like this with the warm gray one. And here as well. Let's see, let's look at the reference picture. Okay, yeah, see, it's got to go up to his muzzle like that. Yeah, okay, and I see he's got some black, so we're going to do that now. Okay, I think we're going to do his nose. Okay, now, let's talk again about black. Black is a dead color, okay? So while his nose looks black, you can actually see that it's not black, it's very, very dark gray. And the way that we're going to get that is by mixing Payne's gray and black together. So we start off with a base color of Payne's gray 181, and we're going to go over everything except for this little highlight that has been left there, okay? So let's just circular motions go over everything. Let me just put a page down so that I don't smudge anything. Okay, and just a layer of Payne's gray. Okay. I'm thinking we will even put a layer of the warm gray 270 to blend this so that we can blend in this highlight. Okay, and now we are going to put black on top. Okay, so I've got my Prismacolor black 199. Okay, it needs a sharpen. Hold on. Okay, and I am just going to go around the edge here of his nose and put this in around the edge. And because I have the Payne's gray underneath, it's not going to look matte. Okay, it's not going to look too dark and too lifeless. Okay, and we're going to blend again with the Payne's gray. Okay, and we have kept his highlight. Okay, right. And now what we're going to do is we are going to put in the black fur that's on either side of his muzzle. Now keep in mind, once again, that it's not actually black, it's gray, and we're going to be using the different grays to create that effect with a tiny amount of black. Okay, right, so we're going to start off with our warm gray 271, 270. I've already done it, but I'm going to put another layer on his muzzle. Okay, I have some erasings there. Let me just get a brush and brush them away. Okay, and now we are going to take warm gray 3. No, that's 5. Where's my warm gray? 3. That's interesting. Oh, yes. Yes, here it is. Warm gray 3. And we are going to just, again, follow the reference photo. Now, in the reference photo, you can see that there's actually a line here. Okay, we are going to put that line in. And for that, I'm going to use first Payne's Gray, or Warm Gray 5. Let's use Warm Gray 5. So I can see that line, but very lightly, I'm going to draw it in. Okay, you follow. This bit, it has to connect to this bit. So very lightly, I'm just going to draw that in on that side. And again, it's there on this side. Yeah, okay. Right, so I drew that in, and now I'm going to take my warm gray 3, and yes, I'm going to put in his tufts on this side. Okay, and on this side as well. And I'm just going to color in that. It can be circular motions because this part of the face is soft fur. So again, I'm taking my warm gray 3 and just around his nose like that. But I'm leaving a highlight on each side. Okay. And I'm going to do the same here with his bottom jaw. Okay. Now I'm going to take the, where is it? It is that's Payne's Gray, the Warm Gray 5. Okay, and again, I'm going to put some tufts in, tufts of fur, flicking motions. Okay, and this side too, up till that line that I drew. Okay, and then Payne's Gray, and I'm going to deepen up the shadow a bit. Yes. Okay, and now I am going to blend out with white. And this is also going to blend out that line that I did. And I'm also going to blend out that warm gray 3 that we had with white. Okay, I think he needs more white there. We're going to put in also white fur with a gel pen. Okay, now I see also that he has, let's go back to our reference picture. He has these dark tufts, yes, on each side. He is so cute. I am going to take, let's take Warm Gray 5. Okay, and start putting that in. So it's this area over here. Okay, keep in mind it's over our highlight area, which we put in with white. And it's going to go right up to there. Okay, and it's also just a little bit there. A little bit there, and we're also going to put in the line of his mouth, here. But we're leaving this highlight. Okay, and now with Payne's Gray 181, again, we're just going to darken up this area, leaving in the highlight. And this area. Right. Okay, and we're also going to put black. Okay, but we've put all those other colors as well, so the black will not look lifeless. Okay. Ooh. Okay, yeah, I think he's looking good. He's looking good. Let's put some black here, just a little, deepen up the shadow. Right, I think the next step is to do his eyes. Oh, no, let's do his ears first. Okay. If we look at his ears, the inside of the ear is quite dark. Okay, and so we are going to do that with sepia. Yes, okay, so remember we have already a base layer of the buff titanium, and so we are now going to go over very lightly. We're going to go over his ear with sepia. Okay, in between the tufts. Okay, and this side too. Okay, so that's fur. And this is the inside of his ear around this flower here. Okay, and also here at the top. In between the tufts, around this leaf. Okay, and then I see that he's got this black rim around the top of his ears. So again, using dark sepia, we are going to put that in. Okay, and it goes all the way around. Right into his fur here. Okay, and it's also here at the top and down the side into this area there. Okay. Okay. Okay, and this side as well. So it's this bit. We can darken up the shadow around there as well. And then It's around his ear here. I see this ear is just a little bit like forward. I see. Okay. So round there. This bit is a bit thicker on the side. Okay. You can see I've put in the sepia, but I can also see that it's a bit smudged out there. And I'm thinking we're going to put some warm gray 5. Yes, we're going to blend it out with some warm gray 5. Okay. Both sides. Okay. Okay, and I also see that then he's got the tufts. So we're going to go in with burnt ochre. Okay, we're going to start putting in the fur, the tufts of fur that he's got there. Okay, again, flicking motions. Here it's longer strokes because the fur is longer. And also a bit here. Okay, and also here, let's see, it goes up like that. Yeah. Okay, and also on this side. In there, some terracotta, because in our reference we have it going over on each side. Okay, just here at the bottom. Okay, and also some sienna brown, just it's burnt sienna, sorry, burnt sienna. There, these areas. Okay, and over there. I also noticed that around his nose, again, around his nose, he's got this bit. We're going to do that, warm gray 5. And on top of his nose there. And on that side, a little bit around his nose. Okay, there we go. That gives him some more character. Okay, and now we have to do his eyes. Okay, so as we can see, his eyes are like a hazelish green color, and I think that's because in this particular picture it's picked up on the green from the surrounding plants. Okay, so we're going to do ours also a grayish greenish color, I'm thinking. Let's start with warm gray 3. Do that over the entire eye. Okay. Okay, now we're going to go in with the olive green yellowish. Okay, and again, we're going to go over the whole eye. Okay, and now we're going to blend this out with ivory. Okay. Right, and now I want to take some burnt sienna and just go around the edges of the eye. Yes, and also around the pupil, like that. It's always darker here at the top. We're going to go in with some more sepia, I think, around his pupil. Okay, let's take the dark sepia. Okay, and we're going to fill in the whole pupil. And then just a little bit around the edge too, like that. Around the eye. Okay. And here as well. We're going to get some black. Okay, I think I'm going to get a black fine liner. Oh. Okay, so I have a black fine liner. I have a Stabilo 88. Okay, and I'm just going to go over the entire pupil again with this fine liner. Okay, on top of the dark sepia. It will give the eye a bit of a shine. Okay, let's let that dry for a second. Okay, and then we're going to use a white gel pen. And now I've got the Artistro paint marker pen. It's acrylic paint, and I've given it a shake, and now I'm just going to put in okay, for his eyes. Oh, there we go. He looks so good. Okay, so the last step is to put in some acrylic pen. This pen doesn't want to go on top. Okay, so notice that I'm smudging it out. Ah, there we go. Okay, and over here on his tufts. Okay. A bit more there. Actually, this is doing a good job. Okay. Okay. Right, so we're just gonna now put some more of these tufts in his neck. And you smudge it out with your finger. Don't be afraid to get your hands messy. Messy hands is all part of the fun. Okay, and also here by his Oh, that came out nice. Okay, and there too. Oh, and there too. And his ear tufts. Don't forget the ear tufts. Okay. Just one more little thing with the sepia just to put some of these tufts back in. Yeah, and he's done. Okay, so let's zoom out and take a look at the whole effect. Oh yeah, I think he came out really nicely. I'm so pleased with him. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining me as I colored the fur for this cute little fox. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you enjoy the channel, it would be wonderful if you subscribed. And I hope to see you soon for more tips and tricks. Bye.